just talking to a friend here. I'm just talking to a friend. Hello everybody. Welcome to my very first video ever. Hopefully it doesn't suck. So today I am going to be reading Colleen Hoover's 5 worst rated books. These right here. These 5. These are based off the Goodreads ratings. Not all 5 of them are like the actual worst rated ones because a few of them were in the middle of a series or the end, and I didn't want to start any books, or my goodness, start any series to do that. So these are either standalones or the beginning of a series. I'll be tier ranking these based off of how I like them, obviously. So the S tier will be books that I think are my new favorites. The A tier are books that I really liked and would probably recommend to a lot of people. B tier was, it was a great book, probably would recommend to people who have similar vibes. C was, it's a good book and or deserves the rating it got. D is, it was okay, it was a book, I read it. E is, I can see why others might like this, but it just wasn't really for me. And F is, I didn't like it at all, probably wouldn't recommend it to anybody. The first book that I will be reading, and the 5th worst rated Colleen Hoover book, is Maybe Someday. So I think this is the first book in a series. However, on her website she said it could be a standalone. I'm going into this knowing close to nothing other than what's on the back. This book is for adults. The rating on Goodreads is 4.05. I guess we'll just dive right in. Home to find that her boyfriend has been cheating on her with her roommate. Oh, and this is on her birthday, by the way. So this kind of leaves her without a place to live, and so her neighbor, Ridge, takes her in exchange to help him write lyrics because he is part of a band and he's kind of going through a little bit of a writer's block. This book on Goodreads is rated at 4.05 stars. I'm personally gonna give it a 3.25 stars, or on our little tier ranking, a C. There were good things about it and there are things I just didn't like about it. So some of the good things is Colleen Hoover actually worked with an artist named Griffin Peterson, and they came up with a soundtrack to go with this book, which is super cool because you can find it on Spotify or wherever you get your music and listen to the songs as you're reading them. And I think this is really great because it really helps you like get into the emotional mindset of these characters. The middle of this book was so aggravating. I cried actual tears of frustration because I was just very worked up about what was going on. So shout out to Colleen Hoover for making me care a lot about these characters, but that middle part is, it's a lot. It's a lot. I had to put the book down a few times and take a break. If you don't like the cheating trope, you're not gonna like this book. But if you like music, I would suggest it. It's really fun. It's nice to see the songwriting process, I think, and it's, again, nice to hear the lyrics with it. This is a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, but there is like, the ending is really great, and then the last couple pages is a sex scene, and it is so out of nowhere. It totally drew me out of the book. Like, I thought it was just ending so perfectly, and then it just got snatched back out of it. I know it's an adult rated, like it's meant for adults, the book's meant for adults. Doesn't mean you need to throw a sex scene in there. I think the like actual topics within this book was totally fine to be adult rated. It didn't need to have a sex scene to go with it. The 4th worst rated Colleen Hoover book is Too Late. It is an adult rated book with dark themes, according to Colleen Hoover's website. It has a 4.01 star rating on Goodreads. I don't know much about it. Apparently it is a psychological suspense novel. I'm getting the feeling that this is like close to the Verity vibes, if you've read Verity by Colleen Hoover. I'm excited, ready for a little switch up from this. So, yay. Sloane, who is dating a drug trafficker, and she's in a really awful situation. She wants to get out, but she doesn't have the financial means to do so. And she meets Carter, who is an undercover DEA agent whose job is to take down Sloane's boyfriend's drug business. The story is kind of about Sloane trying to get out and Carter, who really wants to help her, but he also wants to get his job done. It's a really, really hard read. There are tons of trigger warnings that go along with this book, so if you are interested, look at those and keep those in mind. For me, it's been a really slow read because I just have to stop and start because there's a lot of emotional scenes going through here. I really like Sloane so far. I think she's a really strong female character, which I love. Obviously her situation is awful, but I understand why she's stuck in it. It's a really conflicting book. Like, I can't tell how I feel about Carter because I know he wants to do his job. He wants to take down this bad guy's drug business, and I understand that, but I also so want him to help Sloane get out of this awful situation. I just don't understand why he can't do both. That's my thing. Just do both. But I know he can't, and that's the whole point. Hello, I am back 2 days after finishing Too Late. I just needed to take some time to process what I had read. I'm just gonna start off with the rating. So on Goodreads, this is a 4.01 stars. I ended up giving it a 2 stars, and I'm gonna be putting it in the E tier. I can see why others might like this book, especially if these are the kinds of themes or topics they're interested in, but for me, when I'm reading, I choose to escape reality, I think, most of the time, and this kind of just really is it's just a little too true to life, which is really hard for me to read sometimes. So, and that's not the only reason I'm rating it that low. There's some points in the book that I was just really frustrated with. Like I mentioned in my update, there are a ton of trigger warnings to go with this, and I'll list them on the screen. What I appreciated most about this book was, I think, the message that Colleen Hoover was trying to go for, in that you can't let your childhood trauma make you into define you as a person. You can move past it. And I think Colleen Hoover had a lot of potential with that topic. I just think that it's getting heavily overshadowed by the romantic relationship that she develops in between Sloane and Carter, which I don't think that's a spoiler. It happens really quick off the bat, so I'm trying not to give any spoilers. I think I rated this book so low because I felt like this was 100 pages longer than it needed to be. It's 381 pages, and I think the actual meat of the story stopped about 100 pages before the ending. Most of the character growth was Sloane. I can see in this epilogue, which I really liked. I just wish it wasn't that 100 pages in between, because I just felt like it was she was dragging me on this wild goose chase. It was frustrating for me. And I think what was trying to Colleen Hoover was trying to reflect what the situation in the book is like in real life, and I can respect that, but it doesn't read well to me. I know a lot of people might like the suspense that it brings near the end, but for me it just felt like I was being dragged along. So I didn't really like that. There are some other things that I had problems with that I can't really mention without spoiling it. I loved Sloane's character. I feel like this is kind of hit or miss with a lot of people who've read it, just based off the Goodreads reviews that I've been reading. I personally thought she was really, like, she's so strong and so smart, and she knows what she has to do and what she has to say in order to survive. And most of Goodreads reviews I read was like, why didn't she fight against her boyfriend? Like, why didn't she fight against the abuse she was, like, being given? And I think Colleen Hoover does a great job of showing, like, why people in abusive relationships may not be able to leave those relationships, because, you know, not only does Sloane have nowhere else to turn to, but she has someone she's trying to protect. The only way she can do it is by staying with her boyfriend. I don't know. I can appreciate where Colleen Hoover's coming from in this book. I can appreciate, like, it's not like the normal stuff she writes. She wants to try something different, or she did try something different. Just not the kind of stuff I like to read, so I didn't necessarily like it. The plot itself had a lot of potential for me, and I felt like it really got, like, jumbled up near the end of the book. That being said, the third book on this list is Never Never. She did write this book with Taryn Fisher. I don't know much about it other than it is a young adult book. I'm interested to see where we go with that. Definitely have had two very different stories so far, so I'm intrigued to see where this third one will go. It has a 3.88 stars. I'm excited to give this one a try. We'll see. Charlie and Silas as they kind of wake up in the middle of a school day and realize that they have no memories of themselves or each other or their friends or family or pretty much anything in general. So they basically have amnesia, and this book follows them as they try to figure out what happened to them and why this was why this happened to them. It's split into 3 different parts, so I'm in the middle of part 3 right now. It looks like I have like 30 pages to go. It looks like I have more because there's a ton of bonus features at the end, but I literally only have 30 pages left. It's really fast paced. The actual writing is super easy to read, so you can read it fast, but it feels like it's taking forever to get to the point. Like, when I started this, I was about maybe like 60 pages in before they found anything that was remotely helpful towards like their whole goal of this book. It definitely had like a slow start. I feel like it picked up a little bit, definitely near this 3rd part, because there's more action happening. I mean, I'm liking it so far. I think I like it better than maybe Someday and Too Late, just because I tend to prefer young adult books over adult books. I also feel like the concept of this book is really interesting, with not remembering anything, but they're in it together. Like, normally you get books where characters have amnesia, but it's just them. I like that it's like both of them and they have to work together. I think that's fun. This book is dual point of view, so you get one for Silas and for Charlie, but they sound exactly the same. Sometimes I'll get like mixed up and have to go back to the beginning of the chapter to remember who's supposed to be speaking right now. 30 pages left. I'll take you with me as I try to finish this. Well, not try to. I will finish this. It'll take So I finished Never Never last night, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this in my update, but it's a second chance romance because the two main characters were in a relationship for like 4 years before they lost all their memories, and so it's kind of like this second chance at getting to know each other again, getting to fall in love again, but it's also like a second chance at life kind of situation. I just felt the need to tell you guys that because I didn't say it yesterday. I'm a little conflicted about how I feel about this book because it's obviously like, for me, it's not like the greatest book I've ever read, but I definitely liked it. I think more than the other two Colleen Hoover books I've read so far, just because I think the concept is really interesting and really fun. I think I just prefer young adult books because I feel like you have so much more character development in these books because, you know, you're as a young adult, like, you're coming into your own person, you figure out who you are, and that's just really like a really great source for character development. So I think that Never Never definitely had the potential to go down that route, and I think it did a little bit. I think it could have done it more. I do believe that this had so much more character development than in the other two Colleen Hoover books I've read so far. In terms of like where I'm ranking it, I want to say it's higher than Maybe Someday, but I don't think it's like a B tier book. And that's just because it was so slow to get into it and just really repetitive. I liked the ending, and a lot of people like on the Goodreads review said like, oh, the ending happens way too fast. Like, I liked the ending because it actually finally picked up. Like, I felt like I wasn't reading the same thing over and over again. I will say the epilogue like had me a little, not like confused, but like a little shocked at the end. Like, I had to go back and read the last couple pages just to make sure what I was reading was like what I thought I had read actually happened. The epilogue was a little out of nowhere, but I liked the ending. I think I understood where Colleen Hoover and Taryn Fisher were going with. Like, I think I understood what they were trying to do at the end, so I understood what was going on, and I could see how others maybe didn't. So I wouldn't say it's like a B tier book. I mean, especially because like I talked about it yesterday, but like the multiple point of views, I love getting multiple like point of views in books. It's one of my favorite things. But it felt like I was reading the same character because there was just like, I didn't feel like either of the characters had a voice. Like, they sounded the same. So I feel like if you're going for multiple POVs, you need to like differentiate your characters by giving them a voice. Ranking this, I think I'm gonna give it a C tier, which feels wrong, I guess. Not wrong, but like feels weird putting it next to Maybe Someday because I definitely liked it more than Maybe Someday. But I will say I think Maybe Someday deserves the C tier solely for actually having a soundtrack to go with the book, because those songs are still stuck in my head, and it's been like a week since I finished that book. So I think Never Never for me is a C tier book. I think I'd rate it a 3.5 stars. I'm kind of still juggling around on the rating. I really liked the concept of this book. I think Amnesia is a good way to create character development, and it being a young adult book, it just has so much potential. I don't think it reached its full potential is what I guess I'm trying to say. Like, it could have done better. It's like a very C tier book because I don't like some aspects of it, but I really liked others. Which I did not think I'd be saying about a Colleen Hoover book, so there you go. The next book, and the second worst rated Colleen Hoover book, is Without Merit. I know absolutely nothing about this book. I've seen it a little bit on TikTok recently, and I've been having to like swipe past the videos because I like to go into books not really knowing anything. That way I'm like more surprised when stuff happens, I guess, throughout the book. So I know absolutely nothing about it. It is a young adult book though. The Goodreads rating is 3.74 stars. I guess we'll see how I like it. I read the first chapter of Without Merit and I set it down, and now here we are 2 weeks later. Yeah, got a little busy, but I'm back. I'm ready to read. I will say the first chapter of this, immediately I was like, I don't know how much I like this character. So we'll see how this goes. The main character's name is Merit. She collects trophies so far. She has a twin sister. That's about all I know so far. I'll read the whole thing hopefully today because I have no plans. It's a Saturday. No life, no plans. So I'm hoping to read this whole thing, and then hopefully I can get to the last book of this video soon because it's been so long. But yeah, let's get reading. I didn't love it. So this book is about Merit, who is part of a family that like seems perfect on the outside, but when you look inside has a lot of secrets and a lot of problems, and Merit is kind of struggling trying to keep these secrets to herself. That's kind of it. She falls in love with a dude who she thinks is unattainable, and so she's kind of struggling with that as well. There are trigger warnings to go with this book, so if you want to read this book, maybe keep that in mind. Like, I had no idea going into it that that was going to be in there, and so I kind of wish I would have known. Here's a few things I liked about the book. I liked not the concept, but the themes Colleen Hoover was going for, I think are some really strong ones, especially in terms of a young adult book. It is something that definitely should be talked about with young adults, and you can tell that Colleen Hoover, that's what Colleen Hoover's trying to do in this book, especially with talks about depression. I will say, sometimes it read like I was reading one of those pamphlets they hand out in health class your freshman year of high school. It sometimes felt a little ingenuous when they were talking about like depression and how to see the signs and stuff like that. But I do like that this is something that we see in young adult books, like that she's trying to bring up, because young adults should be educated on what depression looks like, and that it might not be the same for everyone, and it definitely isn't the same for the characters in this book. So I really liked that. I liked the main love interest. I thought he was really wise beyond his years, and I guess like that is like the whole reason why our main character Merit falls in love with him, I guess. But he is also an artist, and you get to see his drawings in the book, which I really like. I think that's something I've noticed with Colleen Hoover, especially in terms of maybe someday where you get to hear the songs, you get to see the pictures in this book. So I think that's a really cool feature that she does for her readers, and I really appreciated it. But things I didn't like about this book, it didn't connect with me. I think I had a really hard time connecting with the main character. She thinks the world is against her while actively choosing to pick fights with people in her family. So it's like, I want to feel bad for her, I really do, but like, don't do and say things that are gonna make people angry at you, I guess. It's something I can relate to. Like, obviously we all say the wrong things sometimes, but she does it every time. And like, you gotta know who you're speaking to, and like, I don't know. I'm going off on a little tangent here, but maybe make the main character a little bit more relatable and a little bit more sensible. It's kind of where I land with this book. I am gonna give it another C tier. I think I'm gonna give this 3 stars on Goodreads. I don't know, I'm having a hard time because I feel bad giving all her books 3 stars, but that's just kind of where I'm landing. The Goodreads rating for this book was 3.74 stars. I think I'm just gonna give it a 3. We're on the last stretch, the final book for this video, and the worst rated Colleen Hoover book is Layla. It is a adult book, so no more young adult, we're transitioning back into adult. And on Goodreads, this got a 3.67 stars. I don't know if I'm completely correct when I'm saying this. It might be a love triangle book. It's 290 pages, which is a lot shorter than the rest of the books I've been reading for this video. We're almost done. pages and I don't think I'm liking it very much. Basically, it's about Leeds and Layla, and you're kind of thrown into Leeds being in the middle of this interview with some random guy that he met off the internet, and he is talking about Layla, who is his girlfriend. All the while, like, this isn't a spoiler because it tells you within like the first page, his girlfriend is tied up upstairs. Rope around her wrist, duct tape covering her mouth, like she's tied up. And then you learn about how Leeds and Layla met and how they fell in love. And it kind of, I guess, it goes back and forth between the present and the past. So the present is the interview and the past is the meeting and stuff. I don't think I'm liking it because I don't like how there's all this talk about how Leeds like loves Layla and how they fell in love and it's super magical, and the whole time like I can't, like I'm having a hard time falling into that romance. Another reason why I'm having like a hard time not believing that Leeds and Layla are in love, but like kind of just like getting into the romance, is that pretty much from the moment they met it's all about them having sex. And it's not like that's a bad thing, like I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all, you know, everyone goes about romance in different ways. It just doesn't feel like they have an emotional connection. It just feels more physical from like my viewpoint. So far, it's the worst rated Colleen Hoover book, and I think I like this one the least out of the 5 I've read. Well, this being the 5th. I don't want to keep reading, but I will. I can do this. I can get through it. very honest. I thought that Colleen Hoover was asking way too much of us to actually like the main character Leeds, who was also the narrator. I think he was just kind of an awful human being, and I didn't really like any of the other characters. I did not like the subject matter. There are some dark themes going in here. I know I said that this was a love triangle romance, and it kind of is, like it is, but it also has that cheating trope in there, and I don't know what's with Colleen Hoover and loving the cheating trope, but it's not for me. That being said, this is going straight into the F tier. I would have put this in the A tier if I thought that anybody else would like to read this, and to be honest, I would never recommend this to somebody. There are so many better paranormal romances out there if you're looking for that. Don't read, like, I would not read this book. It's getting 1.5 stars for me. The half star, it would have been 1 star, but the half star is going to the fact that I was taken aback by the ending. I was shocked. I was not expecting it, kind of. I kind of knew where it was going, but I was not expecting that ending. It isn't for me. I don't think I know anyone who would like this book, so that's why I'm giving it the rating that it got. I don't know what else to say other than I just really did not like it, and if it weren't for this video, I probably would not have finished this book. It would have probably been a DNF because I had such a hard time reading it. So let's wrap up all the books that I read. We started with Maybe Someday. It is kind of a love triangle book, kind of not really, kind of a cheating book. I guess that's Colleen Hoover thing. Like I said earlier, so many of her books deal with either like cheating or somebody in there is cheating. It's kind of insane. So if you don't like that, don't read her books. This got a 4.05 stars on Goodreads. I'm giving it a 3.25 stars. I don't think about this book ever. The only time I think about this book is when I think about the songs, and I think that's why I'm giving it not such a high rating, but a higher rating, is because the songs in this book were, like, still stick with me. I still think about them. I would recommend this to people. I already have recommended to a friend. Didn't love it though, so that's why I got the C tier. Too Late. This is another love triangle book. It does have a lot of darker undertones, lots of trigger warnings that went with it. It got a 4.01 stars on Goodreads. I'm giving it 2 stars, and I put it in the E tier because personally it's not what I like. Here's the thing, it may not be what I like, but I could see how others might like this book. I can see how this book might appeal to other people. So, E tier. Never Never. The first young adult Colleen Hoover book I've read, and I actually enjoyed it. I thought the premise was really interesting. I liked the main male character in this book. I didn't quite like the female character, but I really liked the main male character in this book. I will say it's my favorite out of the 5 Colleen Hoover books I read for this video. It got a 3.88 stars on Goodreads. I'm giving it a 3.5 stars. I stick it in the C tier because I don't think it's quite worthy of a B tier, just because it kind of felt slow and repetitive as I was reading it, and I think that the characters didn't have as much development as I think they could have, so it's not going in B tier. But I think it's a really solid C tier book. Without Merit, I liked the main male character. He was a very, very good main male character. I think the subject matter in this book is something that's important and should be talked about, especially because this is a young adult book. I liked that. I did really like, and I should have shown this when I was reading it, but it does have little, like, the main male character is an artist, kind of, he sketches, and it does have his sketches in this book, like you can see them. Hopefully it zooms in on that, or like you can see it. I appreciate that we get the images. I would recommend this to people if I thought this was kind of something they were interested in. And finally, the worst Colleen Hoover rated book, and my worst experience with a Colleen Hoover book, Layla. This got a 3.67 stars on Goodreads. I'm giving it 1.5 stars. Like I said, I just struggled to find anything that I liked about this book. I would not recommend it, and I understand why it's the worst Colleen Hoover rated book. I do not think it deserves 3.67 stars. Someone out there might like it, not me. What I've learned from this is, first of all, Colleen Hoover is very hit or miss for me, and hit is like a 3-star book, so it's not like, oh my god, she's the best author I've ever read. Obviously not. Like, I have not had a 5-star book in a while, so maybe the 3 stars are being too generous, but she's a very 3-star rated author for me. If not, then it's a very low rating, as we can see. I read Verity and I really liked that. And I read It Ends With Us and I liked it. I didn't love it. I think I liked Verity a lot, and I think this is where I'm trying to get at in general with Colleen Hoover is I used to read a ton in middle school and then I stopped reading for a really long time because I got super busy in high school and then college. So I think when I picked up Verity, it was like kind of re-entering into that world of reading. And I think that's what Colleen Hoover is good for. A lot of these books have really great ideas behind them and something that would draw readers in. And her writing is so simple, it's so easy to read. And that's kind of what you need as a beginning reader. You need something interesting and you need something easy to read. And I wouldn't say these are 5-star books. I can see why a lot of people gave them 5 stars when they first read them if they're beginning readers though, because I mean, I gave Verity 5 stars, and looking back on it, I don't think Verity's a 5-star book anymore, but I did give it 5 stars at the time because it was something that brought me back into reading. She also really likes to focus on the romance when maybe she should focus more on character development. I think a character needs to develop outside of romance, but you know, these are romance books, so I can't really be upset by the fact that they're heavily focused on the romance. I think Colleen Hoover is a really great author for like people who are trying to get back into reading. I enjoyed most of the time reading these books. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. This chart will not go away, it'll come back. I have a few other authors I'd like to read, like the 5 best rated or the 5 worst rated, and we'll kind of tier rank them. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with some of my ratings or my rankings? Would you have rated them otherwise? Let me know. I'm very interested. I have no one to talk to about these books because I honestly don't have any friends or family who read. So this is kind of why I'm doing these to begin with, is I'd love to have conversations with people about books. I'm really excited and I have a lot of very interesting videos coming up for me. Personally, I think they're interesting. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did.